We will now interrupt your regularly scheduled programming for this Good Old Blades micro podcast.
Probably one of the largest investments a knife maker will make in anything that comes out of their shop is the time that they put into whatever it is they're making. And in working in the shop, one of the largest detriments to you is shop inefficiency. And I wanted to talk a little bit about shop efficiency today and some thoughts around that, because if time is money and you're spending a lot of time on something, then you're losing money, because there is a cap on how much you can charge for your own inefficiency. For instance, if a fixed blade takes approximately 5 hours uninterrupted for you to make, however, that same knife takes you personally 11 hours to make, you can't charge an hourly rate easily for the extra time because you're inefficient at what you're doing. Inefficiencies come in a lot of different ways. Anything from not having the right materials or right abrasives or right tools to do jobs, for doubling up uses of tools and having to set up and reset up machines to do what you want them to, from you lollygagging or diddling around in the shop and not getting things done efficiently, thinking about things too long, grinding things too slow or too fast. Mistakes cause inefficiencies. It's things like that. And over time, if you think about knife making as a linear process from a bar of steel or blacksmithing things, and you get your final product at the end, there are a million little steps from start to finish that probably have some baked in inefficiency. One of those things might be heat treating. Some of that might be hand sanding. Some of it might be bolster fit up or handle fit up. All of those things take time. And knife making is not without risk. Not only the risk of injury that I think we all know about, but also the risk of things breaking down, things not working out the way that you thought they would. Things crack, like handle materials crack, blades crack in heat treat, and so on and so forth. And it's important to keep all of those things in mind when you're making a knife, because all of it contributes towards inefficiency. And what you should be looking at when you are tooling your shop and when you are working out processes for things is, how do you get to a predictable process for how you're making a knife? Do you know that this particular model is going to take a certain amount of time? Do you know the longest amount of time it takes to do certain operations? For instance, when you're heat treating things, do you just sit around there and look at the thermostat on the oven and wait until everything is done and then you move on to another process? Processes are thought of as synchronous and asynchronous. So synchronous processes are things that they require one step to be done before the next step can be started. And asynchronous processes are processes that can run at the same time, and you can double up your efficiency through those. For instance, like if I'm doing heat treating, I'll usually have a bunch of other things that I can do while things are being heat treated, so that way I don't waste my time waiting on an oven. If I am going to grind something, I will grind however many bevels on my blades with the specific abrasive, and then I'll switch the abrasive out. I'll go through as many of those operations for grinding bevels on the same abrasive, so that way I'm not switching out for every single knife that I'm making. I'm going from 50 grit all the way up to 600-800 or micron belts per knife, and then switching them out. Like there's an inefficiency to switching out abrasive. That's why sometimes you see makers that they have maybe 4, 5, or 6 grinders, because they'll actually just have a single grit per grinder, and they'd rather change out machines than they would change out belts. It's an idea. Some people will have multiple pantographs, multiple milling machines, multiple surface grinders, multiple heat treating ovens in order to be able to handle certain processes, so that way they can run asynchronously instead of synchronously. There are so many ways that we waste time in the knife shop, and a lot of it we're not getting paid for. If it takes you time to make a blade, that's one thing. For the craft and for the type of result you're looking for, some things like certain types of fine hand finishes just take that amount of time. Sometimes working with certain fragile materials just takes that amount of time. Like, it is what it is. However, there are some ways that you can gain back your life and gain back your time, and as a result, gain back your money by trying to find the shortest route to getting something done. It's one of the reasons why Bill Ruppel, when he talks about making pocket knives, is don't do anything before you have to, because in a lot of situations, you might repeat processes many, many times, and not only is it inefficient, but it also might add risk to you building a knife. For instance, on slip joints, if you are flattening or burnishing a spring and blade many, many times, you might actually take the blade out of tolerance because of what you're doing. And if you're doing it a few times too many, you might destroy the entire fit and finish of the blade as a result. Really think about what you're doing in the shop, what process you're following, and ways that you might be able to gain efficiencies. And I think when you figure that out for your shop, and when you look at some of the largest time wasters that you have in your shop, you will become a better knife maker, because you will not be sitting and waiting for things to happen in order to make your product. You'll be able to organize your time efficiently, so that way you see progress, which that's the dopamine response that we all like. We like to see the end product. Sometimes we don't like so much the time wasters or the things that really hurt us or bore us in the shop that contribute towards us not wanting to be out there. Think about it. Hope it helps. Ask if you have any questions.